So we have an alumni microgrant that awards $2,000 microgrants to alumni of the awards.
All work that is awarded a gold key gets sent to us at the national level.
Showing the artwork is just such an amazing way to, number one, celebrate the effort that you put into creating something.
I think the most powerful thing for teens, because I think it's the most powerful, it's not just teens, it's again, the most powerful thing for humans, is when you feel seen.
Welcome back to the Scholastic Awards podcast. This episode is one we've been planning on for a while, directly to you from our incredible staff here at the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers, who work tirelessly each year to bring you the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. For more than a century, the Art and Writing Awards have inspired bold ideas and creative teens throughout the country. Some of our notable alumni include Amanda Gorman, Stephen King, Andy Warhol, and Sylvia Plath, to name just a few. Awards alums go on to do phenomenal things. So, our audience wants to know, how has this notable program lasted for so long? Who are the voices behind this amazing program, and how is it run? Well, consider this your episode, an all things guide to the Art and Writing Awards FAQ. We're answering all of these burning questions and more, so stay tuned and keep listening. First up, we're going to hear about alumni opportunities from Shannon Costello, the Senior Manager of Individual Giving and Events. Then we'll hear from Connor Oswald, the Communication and Logistics Coordinator, who gives us the inside scoop on the Alliance's customer service engagement. Then we'll hear from Grace Caiazza, the Exhibitions Manager, who tells us what it takes to display your beautiful artwork. And finally, we'll wrap it up with the Deputy Director of External Affairs, Karen Lautanen, who shares thoughtful words about why this organization is so crucial for teens today more than ever before. Hi, Shannon. Welcome to the Scholastic Awards podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Thank you so much, Avery.
So how about we get started just hearing a little bit about your position here and what you do?
Cool. Yeah. So I am the Senior Manager of Individual Giving and Special Events. I've been with Alliance for almost 6 years, which is crazy. And so on a daily basis, well, I went back to that question.
Yeah, everything changes every day, I'm sure.
Yeah, sorry. So I drive the Alliance's individual giving strategies because we're a nonprofit organization. I oversee our special events like our Next Century Gala. And one of my favorite parts is that I work on alumni engagement.
Perfect. So that's definitely what I want to talk to you today is how can our alumni get more involved with our organization? You know, much of our listeners are about to be alumni or they are longtime alumni. So what kind of things can they do?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things is our microgrant program. So we have an alumni microgrant that awards $2,000 microgrants to alumni of the awards. So you can be an honorable mention, gold key, gold medalist. You can apply for this program to get a $2,000 microgrant to support your creative endeavors. That is open to alumni who are out of college. So you can't be currently enrolled in an undergraduate or a high school program. So it's kind of after that. But I think that's a really fantastic way to get involved with the Alliance and to continue your creative journey. We also have a series of webinars that we've been working with our Alumni Advisory Council on. And so there's one about how to get your work out there. There's also one about creative careers. And then there's also another career panel that just kind of introduces our alumni to the Alumni Advisory Council themselves. So that's great. And then we also have a LinkedIn group. So I think that is the primary way that we're connecting our alumni is on LinkedIn. You can join that group, and it's a great hub to where we share opportunities, different like grant opportunities, micro grant information. It's also where other people can post jobs or post, when they're looking for an artist or a writer or that kind of thing. So that's a great community. We're definitely trying to build that up.
Mhm.
And then We share alumni news on our blog,
Mhm.
and that gets shared in our newsletter that goes out to lots and lots of people. So we're always learning, we're always wanting to learn more about our alumni and what they've been up to and their accomplishments, and we want to share that and post it out. And
Definitely.
yeah.
So that leads me to my next question is how can alumni contact you if they have some special news coming, particularly like a book coming out, a gallery opening? How can they get in touch with you?
Yes, these are the kinds of things that we love to share. And they can email me at alumni@artandwriting.org. That email goes right to me and my team. So yeah, email us there. LinkedIn is also a good one, but alumni@artandwriting.org. Yeah.
Perfect. Any popular questions that you receive? This is our chance to kind of address our audience all together. So anything that happens to
Yeah.
pop up a lot.
Gosh, I think like what opportunities are there for alumni, which I think we
Right.
kind of talked about with micro grants. Also, becoming a juror is a great way to get involved with the awards past, being a high schooler who received an award. Definitely, it's a fabulous way to pay it forward, is to become a juror. We also have an alumni advisory council. So currently there's 5 members of that group. And that is, another way, maybe when you're a little bit further in your career to get involved and to like help us strategize with, alumni engagement and what can we offer our alumni. A practical question that I get asked all the time is, how do I get published?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big one. And so we are working on we're working on, offerings to help folks in that realm. We're thinking about putting together a webinar that is specifically publishing focused because we know that is definitely an area that our alumni are interested in.
Absolutely. And also by this time, by this episode is out, the first episode of the podcast is going to be out, which is also all about publishing and all sides.
Amazing.
Our literary agent is speaking, and an
Amazing.
author, nonfiction, fiction. So definitely go and check that out.
Amazing. And I want to talk to you about maybe if those folks, we should do like a webinar with them and then people can actually ask questions, so we
Absolutely.
can have more of a conversation with those guys.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
in your opinion, what is the benefit of getting involved with this organization after you've already won an award? Why is it special to get involved?
Yeah, at the Alliance for Young Artist Writers, I'm always thinking about the journey of somebody, who received an award in high school and how can we continue on. And I just think that it's all about paying it forward and empowering this next generation of creative thinkers. And yeah, just I think it's so important just to stay in touch and to help pay it forward. Really, that's
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, that is so important, especially in a field that's so creative and doesn't have a linear path necessarily. I think it's so
Absolutely.
important for artists and writers to stick together in that way.
Yeah, and I think it's like it breeds a lot of conversation and just like knowledge sharing and yeah.
Absolutely. So to wrap this up, can you just tell
Uh-huh.
us a favorite memory from working at the Alliance?
I know. Okay, yeah, I was thinking about this. There's so many
I'm sure.
amazing memories. But my favorite, I think, was being part of the centennial. So the Scholastic Awards turned 100 in 2023, and leading up to that, we were really thinking about stories to share and like reflecting on this huge 100-year-long history. So I helped to produce a centennial anthem video
Mhm.
where we interviewed 3 alumni, Ken Burns, Kinsale Drake, and Gordon C. James. And we interviewed them at the Scholastic office. And it was just such a cool opportunity to be a part of, you know, sharing these stories and reflecting on how a Scholastic Award can really impact somebody's journey. I mean, gosh, Ken Burns is prolific, and it all kind of started with his his Scholastic Award when he was like 15. So I think being a part of that video was really awesome. And then we got to show that at Carnegie Hall during that ceremony that year, and It's also on YouTube, so you can watch it now.
Perfect. We'll have it linked in the show notes, obviously. Well,
Yeah.
Shannon, thank you so much for just sharing everything about our alumni opportunities. And thank you for everything you do for young artists and writers. And yeah, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. This was a lot of fun.
Yay. Hi, Connor. Welcome to the Scholastic Awards podcast. So excited to chat with you today.
Hi, Avery. Excited for that as well.
All right, so we're going to get so much wisdom from you. First of all, can you just tell us a little bit about what you do here at the Alliance and what your day-to-day job tasks look like?
Yeah. I'm the programs communication and logistics coordinator at the Alliance, which is like a fancy way of saying that I handle some of our like material and vendor relations. So like where do the metals come from? Where do the key pins come from? I kind of handle the production of those. And then I work on some of our communications that are like more about like how does the program work? What are the category descriptions? Things like that. I help kind of coordinate those like edits and changes year to year. And then I do some customer service work as well.
Awesome. So speaking of customer service, can you tell us some of the most popular questions that you get asked on a day-to-day basis?
I think a lot of our questions really boil down to like what category students should enter work into,
Mhm.
which can be complicated. We have, I think, 27 or 28 categories, between art and writing that students can enter their work into. And, it's not always clear at first, like what a piece should be submitted as. Should this be a photography piece or a digital art piece? Should this be mixed media or is it drawing and illustration, et cetera, et cetera?
Mhm.
And then we make tweaks between years to make it a bit more clear, hopefully. But even even then, it's always going to be slightly blurry.
Mhm. Interesting. Okay, do you have any ideas for tips that teens can figure out, hone in on what those categories might be?
Yeah, but obviously I always suggest to read the more full descriptions online, like on our website, on the under the categories page, as opposed to just reading like in the portal. But I think a big thing to think about is to look at your work and look at what you want it to be judged as. Like what do you think best represents the focus and intention you had behind it?
Yeah.
Um, like if it's a piece that could be both like a fashion or a sculpture piece because it's in between those. What criteria do you want it to be evaluated as? Do you want it to be evaluated as something that's worn or something that's viewed? And
Awesome.
then you could always check out our gallery or the old publications to see what works like have won in the past and see if yours is similar to any of those, and then what categories those were in when they won.
Perfect. That's excellent advice. And we will have all of these links in the show notes for everyone to find very easily. So speaking of the submission process, can you talk to us a little bit about the portal and any tips you have about navigating the portal? I'm sure you could talk about this for a while, but any just like quick little snippets that you can tell people.
Oh gosh, the portal. It's functioning a lot better this year, which I'm glad to announce. Not that there's, not that it's flawless yet. I think, I mean, maybe my most important hint is to get in there early.
Mhm.
One, because even when we had our old submission system, like when it came down to deadline times, occasionally it would crash because our servers can only handle so many people uploading their work at once. And then, if you are submitting and you like run into an issue, the sooner, like, the farther away from your deadline you email about it, the better able we are to help you, the better position we are
Yeah.
to get something fixed. I guess for students, I think part of it would be to not sweat like every detail of the submission. Like if you can or cannot connect to an educator, there are,
Mhm.
like, if the important part is getting your work entered, getting it marked as paid. If that means that you have to use a fee waiver because the payment system isn't working at the second, use a fee waiver. They're there for students to use for situations like this. If it's, oh, I can't credit my educator yet, um, just go ahead and enter the piece. Educator credits can be changed after work is
Right.
awarded. The important part is just, get it in there so that
Yep.
it's like part of our judging panels.
Great. So to clarify, teens don't need an educator necessarily, but we
Yeah,
encourage it.
yeah, exactly. Thanks for adding that.
Awesome. Okay, so deadlines, the big buzzword of the moment. Can you tell us where we can find our specific deadlines for our region?
Yeah, of course. The easiest place to find it is actually on your portal account. Deadlines should be listed if you're a student. On the right side of your account, it will say like your region, and then it will say when the deadline is. And then I think it contains a link to your regional website, which is another place you can find your deadlines. If you go to artandwriting.org/regions, you can enter your zip code, and it will connect you to either your art or writing region, and it'll have the deadline on that page and then a button for you to flip between the two different regions you'll be assigned.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, so can you make changes if the deadline has passed? I know that is a question that we get a lot. What do you have to say?
You cannot make changes if the deadline is passed, but if you've paid for your work, then the deadline hasn't passed, you can still make changes. So if you like have paid for the work and you're like, oh no, I realize there's a typo and your deadline still hasn't passed, you can go in and edit any of the work details.
Awesome. Okay, in terms of national versus regional awards, can you talk to us a little bit about the difference between those and who qualifies for each?
Yeah, of course. So the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards are kind of broken down into two different sections. The first one is the regional awards, where all your work is entered and then you're siloed in these different regions for art and writing, and your work is judged first in those regional areas. So for example, you might be in the Harris County art region, so then your art pieces is judged by our affiliate there who kind of handles recruiting the jurors, managing all of them, and making sure that all the work gets looked at. And then, your work is either awarded, honorable mention, a silver key, or a gold key if it's awarded. And then all work that is awarded a gold key gets sent to us at the national level. And
Mhm.
then at the national level, we work together to create panels of jurors that evaluate the work from across the country, all the gold key winning work, together. So pieces are no longer separated by where we got them from in the country, and they're just separated based on category.
Amazing. Excellent answer. So you kind of answered a little bit about the fee waiver. I know that there are many teens out there who want to participate. Maybe they don't have the funds to do that fee right now. How can they check off that fee waiver? Is it just in the portal? There's a place to mark that?
Yeah, there's a place in the portal. One of our like goals with creating the new portal system was to make this process a bit more transparent and easier. So there's basically two different ways for a fee waiver to be applied to a work. Well, three, but one is one is for regional affiliates. So for our partners, so we don't need to go into that. But for the two, a student, when you're paying for your work, you click there's two ways to get to the payment page. On your entries dashboard, you can click pay at the very top if something's not paid. Or you can go into like a works review page, and at the very bottom, there's a button that says pay. You click to that, and you're brought to a second screen, and you can select each work, and then once you select a work, a small little button appears that says fee waiver. You
Okay.
click yes for that, and then it asks if you're like sure, and then you click yes again, and then it's waived. There's no other process. There's no like review process.
Great.
You don't have to email us. You don't have to like apply for it. It's as easy as that.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Do you hear how easy that is? There is seriously no excuses for not entering at this point.
And educators can also put a fee waiver to your work or like an entire classroom's work in kind of like a few simple clicks. They go to their works, select the works, and click change payment, click fee waiver, and then the fee's waived. So it's pretty simple on their side.
Awesome. Okay, so a hot button topic also for the awards this past year and now is AI generated work. How do we feel about this? Can we submit AI generated work? What's the policy?
Work that is AI generated is not allowed for submission to the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. We're constantly reviewing our policies and what is not allowed. But at this time, AI generated work is not allowed.
Okay, good to know. Is there anything you feel like I've missed? This is your platform, your opportunity to speak to all of our listeners. Anything you want to tell everyone about the awards?
I'll just do like another helpful tip is that when you're like creating your entry, and we have materials required for like art entries, but jurors really love it when they get to see how you made your work. So don't be afraid to list as many things as you use to create something. On the writing pieces, don't be afraid to like say that inspiration or work sources that you might have used, like maybe you were inspired by a poem or a play or a TV show. Those connections are really fun tidbits that jurors like to see when they're evaluating pieces. It really helps them connect better with your work.
Awesome. That's a great tip. And just to wrap it up, what is your personal favorite part about working for the awards?
My personal favorite part. I think that my position is lucky because I deal with a lot of students' work like pre deadlines. So
Mhm.
I get to see a lot of work that doesn't necessarily make it to the national level or might just like be awarded regionally. So I feel like my favorite part is just kind of like this behind the scenes look of work I get from students across the country, which I think is kind of unique to my position here.
Awesome. And one last thing is if we did not address a question that a listener has right now, how can they reach us?
You can reach us at our email info box, info@artandwriting.org.
Amazing. Thank
You can
you.
send a message to your
Oh,
portal account.
there you go. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Connor. This was so helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Avery. I hope some questions were answered, or at least people had a nice time listening.
So yeah, I'm Grace Caiazza. I'm the exhibitions manager for the Scholastic Awards, and yeah, my job is essentially everything to do with the exhibitions um, that are sort of held on a national level. So our national tour, as well as our national exhibition, and I also manage the New York City regional exhibition.
So what does like a typical day look like, or is it different every day?
It is so different every day, just because we have any number of projects going on at a given time, and because my duties are kind of wide-ranging, we're a really small department. It's really just myself and our exhibitions assistant, Jack Whitescarver.
Mhm.
Um, so you know, any day I can be doing high level stuff like meeting with venues, reviewing contracts with museums or institutions, working with education teams in those institutions, to like literally taking a box, wheeling a box full of artworks down the cobblestone street in front of our office,
Mhm.
go to our framers. So yeah, I have a pretty wide range of jobs that I perform.
That's awesome. So how about a little look inside, behind the scenes of the exhibitions process? Like, can you walk us through a little bit about like what it takes to bring on the national exhibition?
Yeah, it's so funny to think about trying to explain this.
I'm sure. No, it's always so weird to explain like what your job is to other people, but in best words you can.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that basically I think of it as like a starting gun being fired
Okay.
as soon as the winners of the national awards are announced.
Right.
So, you know, that data, all of that information is basically a complete mystery to me and my team, basically up until those awards are finalized and sent out
Hmm.
to the students. So when they know, we know.
Okay.
And, you know, in our exhibitions planning, which happens in the months before, you know, the national exhibition production really gets going, we do our best to try and plan for a space that can accommodate the most amount of artworks, things like that. But we never really know what we're going to get until the judging is finalized. So once that happens, we go through sort of the categories that are up for consideration in exhibition that year, sort of dependent on the space that we've partnered with to host the exhibition. And then we begin the call process.
Hmm.
So, um, after we make those determinations, we get in touch with the students, begin the artwork shipping process, and then we are just opening boxes, like opening boxes for a solid month, storing those artworks so that they're secure, measuring them, getting all the information that we need about them to take them to the framers. Then we take them to the framers, and then you know, that whole process of coordinating the actual installation of the artwork begins at that point.
Got it. So are you in charge of basically the layout of the exhibition as well? Like which art goes where or not exactly?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I am also in charge of the layout of the exhibition. So that's part of the planning process that I
Yeah.
mentioned,
Hmm.
where, I make a rough sketch of sort of based on the previous year's numbers and sizes of I'm sorry, it's sort of based on the sizes of the previous year's exhibition.
Okay.
I make a rough sketch of how many artworks the space can accommodate. And then when we get the actual sizes of the artworks, that's when the real figuring happens because we're working with real numbers, real sizes, and we're sort of adjusting that projection based on the actual sizes of the artworks. And then ultimately, little tiny details like, okay, it's a work on paper, it needs to be framed, it's actually going to be a 16th of an inch. I'm sorry, it's a work on paper, it needs to be framed, it's actually going to be 2 inches larger on every side. Oh, but this is a work on canvas. It's not going to be bigger, so don't touch that. Leave it as is in the layout. There's a lot
Right.
of adjusting that happens in the period between what we think the show is going to look like. We get the data about what the students' artworks actually are, and then adjusting the show to fit what we actually have. So yes,
Gotcha.
I do that.
Wow. Lots of work.
So much.
So, this is your chance to address any popular questions that you may receive. Is there anything that you're asked frequently that you want to clear the air about and tell our audience right now?
Yeah, a few things come to mind. I think one of the most common questions that we get in our inbox is, where is my artwork? Um, and we have a huge backlog of works from during the COVID pandemic, which, was a few years ago now, but my position changed hands a little bit, and the information was a little bit scattered for a while as to where everything was and what had been sent, what had not been sent to people. So I've been in this job for 2 years, and a significant portion of my time when I'm not working on producing our active exhibitions has been slowly but surely cataloging everything that we have in our office, which is hundreds and hundreds of pieces across the whole history of the awards. And sometimes it's not labeled. Is this thing from 2007 or is it from 2020? We're trying to make determinations.
Wow.
Um, so, you know, if you're emailing us a question about where your artwork is, I can say with confidence now that we certainly know where it is.
Amazing.
Um, or I don't know if we're gonna cut this, but or if we straight up lost it.
Yeah.
We cut that, but like
Yeah, we'll get that.
we straight up lost it. Like there's some stuff where we don't know actually, like what happened to it.
Makes sense. That's bound to happen. I mean, with
Yeah,
all the
yeah, there was a
101 years like of this, it's
yeah,
gotta happen.
there was a flood. There was a flood a couple years back, which kind of messed things up.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
there was
even
a
think of
flood.
that.
There was a huge reorganization of the Scholastic offices. It's pretty chaotic. But I
Gotcha.
think the long and short of it is if you're asking us, if you're asking us where your artwork is, you probably fall into a couple of categories. I will name those categories. You're a student who's been exhibited since my tenure. I started this job in 2022. Um, your artwork is still sort of under contract with us. We're generally, in all of the consent forms that you sign, works are held by us for 2 years after their date of exhibition. And that's just because they go on tour, other projects are actively being produced. We want to just make sure that we as an organization have enough time to get those back to you. So if you're a student asking from recent years where your artwork is, I definitely have a quick and easy answer for you. Folks from 2019 and 2020, that artwork has been in the process of being cataloged. There's still a few outstanding things in our catalog, But we're now in a place where I can give you a more direct answer about when and how that artwork is going to get back to you. Basically, anyone beyond that time, it's a combination of factors, which is whether or not in our digital archive of all the works, we're able to access your work, to give me the most information that I can about it, and also whether or not the artwork is going to be easily found in our on-site storage. We also have some off-site storage where works have existed for a long time. I've actually never been to that facility. Nobody has requested artworks quite so late. But yeah, that's the biggest question I think that we get asked.
Amazing.
Students being sure to document their artwork the best that they can, especially if that artwork has unusual hanging hardware or is
Yeah.
a three-dimensional work. Something that is the most helpful to the exhibition. The two things that are the most helpful to the exhibitions team are having accurate dimensions for your artwork at the outset, and having accurate documentation for your artwork at the outset. So having all the pictures that you can, or the best pictures that you can, that accurately convey like the scale and the dimensionality of the artwork. It's so, so helpful to us. I cannot emphasize that enough.
Okay, so in your opinion, why is it important that young artists see their work on display, especially talking to those artists who maybe the idea of that is really intimidating? What words of wisdom do you have?
Yeah, I think that it's important because, yeah, I think teens, anybody, any artist, you labor largely in private. I mean, I'm sure some of our teens are, in classes or making work as part of class or in some kind of school. But, working on things for a long time, it can feel really insular and it can feel really personal. And yeah, showing the artwork is just such an amazing way to, number one, like celebrate the effort that you put into creating something. Like it's always such a feat of time and patience and diligence to fully manifest a work of art, especially the kind that are so technically skilled that we see in the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. And so, to some extent, an exhibition is a fulfillment of that. And it's also just like so special to see students being recognized by their peers. And yeah, sometimes there's this definition. It's not always the correct definition, but to be an artist is to exhibit your work. That's not necessarily true, but I think that that's a very validating experience for an artist. Is like, okay, well, someone is seeing my work. I am an artist. And well, I think you can debate whether or not that's really how we should be defining what an artist is. I think that it's an amazing thing for the kids to experience that level of validation.
Yeah, no, I remember at the New York exhibition just recently seeing the kids like go up to their work and show their family and everything.
Yeah.
It's so gratifying to see it like truly in person, especially after COVID and everything. I think we all appreciate that in-person moment even more than ever before. So.
Yes, and I love seeing the kids
Yes, yeah.
talk to each other. I mean, I love seeing them in real life. I mean, I think I said this. I say this, I think, at every exhibition where I'm asked to talk.
Okay.
But they are celebs to me.
They are. Yes, that makes sense.
Like are celebrities to me. Like I really, my assistant Jack and I, we touch every artwork. We touch every single artwork. We work for months with these names, with these images, with these ideas of the students, based off the pieces that they make. And then we get to see them. And there's like nothing more amazing than watching a teenager point. They love to stand in front of the works and point to them so they can get their photo taken. And
Yes.
it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I love that. Okay, so for anyone listening, if you're feeling intimidated, just know that we at the Alliance view you as celebrities. It's true.
Yes.
That's all you
Yes.
need to know.
Yes. Yes. You are a celebrity. You are a star artist in my eyes.
I love it. So what are you most excited about for the 2025 program year? Anything you want to shout out?
I'm just looking forward to having a national exhibition
Yeah.
again this year.
Mhm. I know I didn't get to go last year, so I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited. I think that I'm really excited to be experiencing Awards Week. It really is such a special experience, and I mean, yeah, I personally am really looking forward to just like my favorite part of the year, as I think I already said, is just like opening up the artworks. Like it's
Yeah.
so fun. I I think another thing that I think I've maybe mentioned in some Alliance communication is that we receive the artworks around my birthday.
Okay.
And so
Birthday
it feels
present.
like it feels like I'm opening like 100 birthday presents.
That's amazing. Perfect
Yeah,
time.
it's so good. It's so good. So yeah, I'm just like excited to be working with all the artworks IRL and just for the thrill of Awards Week again.
Honest. Oh, I love that. So cool. Okay, so to wrap this up, how about any gratifying, memorable moments in your time working here that you want to share with everyone?
Oh man,
I'm sure a lot.
there's so many.
Yeah.
It's a very gratifying job.
Hmm.
Uh, it's a very gratifying job. Um, I think that when I went to the ceremony at Carnegie Hall in 2023 was probably one of the most gratifying moments of this job because, for every student whose work I work with on a like individual level, for every artwork that I open, it's even just like a fraction of the awards community,
Hmm.
like the
Yeah.
community around the awards, like in, sort of in comparison to the awards as a whole, it's a smaller number. And when I went to Carnegie Hall, my first year working this job, and I just saw it was completely filled with students, and there were the writers and their
Yeah.
teachers and their families, like just seeing the amount of people who really come together around the awards. It's just, yeah, it was really amazing. It was really amazing that it was even, my job is big, but that it was even bigger than I could imagine, and even bigger than I can imagine beyond just the people who, show up at Carnegie Hall. Just like, yeah, it blows my mind to think about the
Yeah.
scale that we work with.
Absolutely. Well, Grace, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom about exhibitions with us. I'm so excited for everything to go on next year. And thank you for everything you do for young artists. So amazing.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Avery.
Of course.
My title at the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers is Deputy Director for External Affairs. And to explain what External Affairs is, it's basically a combination of fundraising, development, and also marketing and communications. And for a lot of not-for-profits, which includes, museums, NGOs, et cetera, libraries, et cetera. I mean, all the not-for-profit world, basically, this role kind of, I think, exists or was created to answer a need in not-for-profits, which is matching a case for support and communication strategy with fundraising goals, because so much of what not-for-profits have to do is actually, raise money and have contributed income. And so when you have that messaging alignment, it's a lot easier when you are all on the same page about what the case for support is. And so it helps not-for-profits find a space in the not-for-profit world and also be successful. And I came to the Alliance. I had a very circuitous path. I started out back in my early undergrad days focusing on psychology. I became a therapist initially. Then I moved on and ran a business. I was a wholesaler. I had a small jewelry business, and then I moved into working at universities. So I kind of fell into the not-for-profit world. And in my work at the University of Pittsburgh, I discovered that I actually loved fundraising, and then moved on to another university position, and then found kind of a dream job for me at the time, which was at the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh, where I became the director of development and then senior director for external affairs as well there. Then I left the Warhol and started an independent project with the artist Ai Weiwei. And as that project came to an end, I was looking back to get involved in another not-for-profit and learned about the Alliance and the Scholastic Awards, and here I am.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for that very detailed response, because sometimes a lot of what I talk about on the podcast really is how one opportunity can lead you to something that you don't even expect. So, like, you didn't even know you loved fundraising, you go to a job, it leads you to something else, and you fall in love with it. So, I love
Absolutely.
that lesson in itself. Did you always kind of have an affinity for art? Because I know that Andy Warhol is one of our alumni. So, is that just a coincidence?
Um, I don't think it's really a coincidence in some ways. You know, Warhol is from Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh. He did participate in the awards, and I've always loved art. I mean, in all varieties, any kind of creative practice, whether it was going to museums or watching movies or reading books or poetry or going to the theater, et cetera, et cetera. I think that I always sought that out, even from like a pretty small child. And it wasn't something that was necessarily, um, I mean, it's not that I grew up in a house without art, but I didn't grow up with parents who were particularly, let's say, exposed or savvy in the world of the arts and creativity. I mean, they definitely provided opportunities for me, but I couldn't have took those opportunities and ran. So I didn't come from like a long history of people that were, you know, going to museums on a regular basis or going to theater on a regular basis. That was something that kind of evolved as I was growing up, and particularly my mother and I, did together.
Interesting. Okay, I love that answer. That is a perfect segue, honestly, into my next question was why is creativity so important for teens, especially for the Scholastic Awards? You know, why is it so beneficial that we create this space for teens to really express themselves?
Yeah, well, from the beginning, I mean, and from a very practical perspective, it's really great to have deadlines and a structure
Mm.
uh, to respond to. And a lot of people, I mean, I'm, making massive assumptions here, but, a lot of teens and a lot of humans, it's not just teens, but a lot of people require structure. And I think having a formalized program with partners that we work with, like with our affiliate partners, whether that's a museum, whether that's a school district, whether that's a library, um, those types of organizations help teens structure their time, their energy, their deadlines. You have to kind of go through this process of actually just thinking about what you want to do and how you want to do it and what the end result is going to be. And sometimes just having an outside force with that is very helpful. So from a practical perspective, I think the awards are great because it sets up a structure for application. And then following up on that, I mean, going through the process of figuring out what you want to say and how you want to say it, what materials you need, what you need to assemble, what's the timeline. I mean, all of these are really practical skills that I think are, have to be used when you're doing this. Then you have to meet and talk to people. You have to be brave, right? You have to actually put yourself out there and submit your works. You are then, and it's not a bad thing to be judged. I mean, it's always good to have critique and to understand, how your work affects people. And if you're fortunate enough that you kind of move forward through the process and you end up at sort of the national level of competition, then you get the opportunity to come to New York, which I think for a number of our teens, they may have never had the opportunity or reason before to even travel outside, maybe out of their communities. So if that's a possibility for them, then that opens up a whole nother layer of sort of practical skills that come along with it. And I think the most powerful thing for teens, because I think it's the most powerful, it's not just teens, it's again, the most powerful thing for humans,
Mhm.
is when you feel seen. And that is, I think, I think when you speak to some of our teens, they will say to you, I didn't feel comfortable calling myself an artist, or I didn't feel comfortable calling myself a writer, or I didn't know that I was a writer or an artist or a designer, or I had this inside me and somebody saw it in me and reflected it back to me. And that is an incredibly powerful moment, for anybody, regardless of your age, but especially for teens who I think in general are trying things on. They're experimental. They tend to have more, they tend to be a little bit more brave because they have less to lose in some ways. I mean, they have more freedom that they can use for themselves in those moments. Of course, this isn't true for all teens. Equity and accessibility is a big part of, I think, what we're trying to address as well. And this opportunity through the Scholastic Awards hopefully provides teens that otherwise maybe would not have this access, some kind of access or support system. Because it's one thing if you go to a school that's very resourced and you maybe have a family that's more resourced and you have people encouraging you and you're taking art classes or you're going to take photography classes, whatever. That's one part of the population, but there's a lot of the population that has no access or very little access. The arts programs maybe have been cut from school, or maybe they just also have to go get a job after school.
Mhm.
And they don't have really the time or the resources themselves to be thinking about a creative process. And so I think that what we try to do through the Alliance and through the Scholastic Awards is to try and make this as accessible and equitable as possible, and which of course, is almost impossible to achieve those goals because of everything. But I think it's a big part of what we think about.
Absolutely. Oh, so much that I just see about the Alliance and what you just said. I mean, especially what you said about having a goal, having a timeline. That is so true and something nobody's actually ever brought up so far. And I've never thought about that, but it's so true. It's kind of like the awards are emulating the work world. If you are wanting
Yes.
to, I mean, any career at all, but if you're in the arts, you want to be a writer, you're always going to have deadlines. So learning how to work and operate in that way. And as far as recognition goes, I just think about how many artists and writers, don't have that moment where they're told, I see you. And that's why our organization is so special because that moment can change a teen's life. So
Absolutely. And I think about our National Student Poets Program specifically because I got to see some of those teens in action together.
Mhm.
And they have formed, at least this particular class I'm referring to, formed such a bond with each other that I am sure will be, I mean, they are going to rely on that bond for the rest of their lives. And
Absolutely.
that's a very, very powerful thing to have found your people.
Hmm. So true.
And
Yeah.
yeah, right.
That's what I craved the most in high school was finding people who loved writing the way that I do. So to have that immediate connection is just there's nothing like it. You are new to the Alliance. How long have you
Yeah,
been here so far?
I started at the end of September of 24. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so with your fresh perspective of our organization, what are some goals, changes that you hope to see in your dreams that the Alliance can accomplish in the next year or so?
Oh, sure. Well, being a external affairs person, I'm thinking a lot about a few things. One, I'm thinking about like general strategy for the organization. I think that for me, one of the goals, immediate goals, will be to try and help us talk a little bit more about ourselves in relationship to and separate from the Scholastic Awards. So, the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers is a 501(c)(3), right? And it administers the Scholastic Awards, but it does a bunch of other things too. And I think that it's kind of like almost a blessing and a curse to have the affiliation with the name Scholastic because we wouldn't exist without Scholastic. I mean, this was a program that started more than 100 years ago. And the basis for this organization was kind of in the spirit of the awards, right? So we evolved out of these awards. So we're deeply connected to the awards, and it is our premier sort of number one program and focus, but we do other things. And the not-for-profit, because it's a not-for-profit, it has other goals and a mission associated with it, which is different than a for-profit corporation. So being able to kind of get our messaging clear about who we are, why we're so important, and why we need to exist is my primary goal, for sort of the next year or so, because that helps us raise money, raise awareness. It also helps us increase visibility. And, I think that for me, the ultimate goal, and again, this is just coming from my perspective, but I want to really think about this artist, writer, teen journey. And I want to think about how they start with us and how they can go through their lives with us. And whether that is becoming a judge, or whether that is being active in our alumni community, or that is becoming a supporter at when they feel that they could or are interested in doing that, whether that means they're connectors, whether that means they help us develop more affiliate partnerships. I mean, we touch a lot of teens. Millions of teens, right, have applied to this program. And so I think about that journey of these young creatives and how we want to stay with them on their path and how we can do that in the best way. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about as far as like larger goals for the organization.
Amazing. Well, we'll check back in a year for our next podcast season, see how we did. Little evaluation.
Give me a scorecard. Yeah. B minus.
Okay, what advice would you give for teens who are maybe anxious about entering the awards, or just any general advice to young people who might be entering creative fields?
I think that you should really do what makes you nervous.
Love that. Yes.
I'm not saying you should go do something dangerous. There's a reason why, some things make you nervous, but you have to, I think, as any human, again, but teens in particular, you have to have the emotional and mental and psychological practice of trying. And then knowing that whether you quote unquote fail or not is not really the issue. It's really about what you do with that experience. So if it doesn't work out, why didn't it work out? How can I make a change? Is this for me? Is this not for me? Should I pivot or should I double down? Is this like something, how can I improve? Let me get some feedback. If it does work out, great. What does that mean that it worked out? How do you use that? What does this mean for the next step? Is this something that I liked and I want to move on to something else? That's all okay, right? So it's really just about trying. And everything in life, I think, especially about growing up and experiencing life, is really about being brave. And it's okay if it feels uncomfortable, and it's okay if it's scary, and it's okay if you're anxious. But what are those tools that you use to then manage that anxious feeling? Because those tools that you develop, you'll use across the board in your life, no matter what you do. So that to me is, I would say, if you are nervous, go talk to somebody, reach out to us, connect with alumni, talk to your affiliate partners, talk to your school districts, whoever it is, reach out and let us help you. We can talk you through it, and it's okay to be nervous, but know that the more that you do these things that make you uncomfortable, the more confidence you will have going forward to try new things. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, really, of hope and optimism.
So true. Yeah, no, just the resilience to, learn how to cope with trying and, maybe not getting what you wanted, but bringing it back to the beginning of our conversation. Maybe something you try is going to lead you to what you're really meant to do. So you just never know.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And for our final question, this is kind of your floor to answer any frequently asked questions. Is there anything you hear a lot or you're asked a lot about the Alliance that you just want to kind of address here?
I think the main thing that I hear a lot is the question and the confusion of the difference between the Alliance and Scholastic. That comes up a lot. And it comes up even from people who are deeply engaged and involved with our organization. And so I think that the clarity around the fact that that Scholastic Inc. Corporation, an incredible publisher, incredible advocate, and I mean, I really can't think of another publisher that has made it their goal to get as many students as possible interested and engaged in reading. I mean, it is an incredible organization, and I am very proud to be affiliated with Scholastic. That is an incredible mission. They've done a tremendous job. They have a tremendous legacy. We are, a smaller, nimble, not-for-profit that is helping them ultimately achieve their goal, right? Which is getting more people engaged in arts and culture and hopefully doing more writing, reading, making. And, we serve a very specific mission around recognizing and celebrating teen art or teen artists and writers. So I feel like they work really well together, but they are separate. And I think that, we also have to, raise money. So understanding those differences is helpful because sometimes when people hear the name Scholastic, well, they just think, oh, we don't, they probably okay, right, as an organization. And we are okay. And we do have a lot of support from Scholastic, but it's not going to carry everything. And it wasn't intended to carry everything. So for me, it's really about making sure that we separate the case for support from our incredible, partner in all of this, and that we can grow our part of the program that really kind of, like I said, follows these young creatives, hopefully through the course of their lives. And even if they don't end up in a quote unquote creative industry, all of the 21st century skills that they're learning as a part of this process will carry and translate into a career.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really important for me. I mean, I think I found my mission kind of along the way. And for me, my personal mission is always, how do we use arts and culture to make humans better?
Mm.
And, creating an opportunity for teens to experience empathy and understand communication, creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, all those things, all the important 21st century skill sets skill set is really what's going to make them successful in the world of AI, robots, automation. No, for real.
Yep. So true. So true. I mean, any of these skills, creativity in general, who knows what the world is going to be like in 20 years? We need those voices and those teens to keep the creativity alive. So I'm really happy that you mentioned that specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the big question that I get from the folks. Otherwise, there's a lot of basic questions that hopefully we will do a really great job of answering going forward in a more succinct and clear way, and get better and better at our sort of communication strategy. That's another.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for addressing the key differences between the Scholastic Awards and the Alliance, because I know that's something that a lot of people are confused about. So glad to have your little snippet description there. Otherwise, Karen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and so excited to see the future of the Alliance and what you do here and all the amazing things to come.
Thank you so much. I'm excited too.
And that wraps up today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and a huge shout out to the rest of our team. We are a small but mighty crew here at the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers that works tirelessly year-round to ensure that the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards legacy continues to live on. I think we can all agree that more than anything else, the number one quality our staff shares is a deep passion and love for supporting teen artists and writers. Well, if you also share this love, consider all the many different ways your donation to the Scholastic Awards can change a teen's life. As always, thank you again for listening. You know the drill, where to follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and everything is in the show notes below. Remember, we're looking for new podcast guests, so if you have an interesting career trajectory or a story to tell, and you're a recent alumni of the awards, please reach out to us at social@artandwriting.org. Until then, stay creative, connect with your fellow alums, and we'll see you next time.